What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Christian Hanna Horror here today. Today, guys, we're doing a really fun video because I want you people to get involved. These will be my top 5 Big 4 slasher sequels. I'm taking the Big 4 that we love: Michael, Freddy, Jason, Leatherface. You can tell a lot about a person by their favorite sequels in these franchises, I think. Because a lot of these sequels in these franchises, really all of them, have their own specific style, flavor, and personality. So if you're going to have to pick 5, what would be your 5 favorite sequels out of all of them? Now, the trick to this, though, is some franchises could get left behind. You could not pick any Texas Chainsaws for this list. You could leave out some Freddys. You could leave out, Jasons or Michaels. These are your top 5 favorites from all of those sequels. We're excluding the part 1s. We're just going to do the sequels. Give me your top 5 favorite sequels from these Big 4. I think you could tell a lot about a person by the ones they pick. So I came up with my list, and this was tough. If I can only pick 5 sequels from these Big 4, here's what they would be. So why don't we get started? Coming at number 5 for me is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, the 80s Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I absolutely adore this movie. I love the flavor that Tobe Hooper went for with this film. I love the characters. I love Stretch and Lefty, and I love Leatherface in this film. I love Bill Moseley, obviously. This is his film. This is Chop Top's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love the flavor, style, energy of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and there is no Texas Chainsaw film that looks or feels exactly like 2. It's very 80s, it's very fun, it's very energetic. I love the lair at the end of the movie that we end up in. It's crazy, chaotic, and great. I love the gore, I love the chainsaws. I just love Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. So my number 5 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Coming at number 4 for me, this one may surprise people, but I don't know, maybe not. One of my favorite Halloween sequels is Halloween 2, but I also really love Halloween 4. Now, last night, I'm going to sleep, I get home from work, I'm working evenings right now, so my wife's already in bed, I get home, I hop in the bed, the rain gets really bad, the thunder starts hitting, and I'm thinking about my list as I'm going to sleep, and I'll never forget last night when lightning came through the windows in the pitch black bedroom, like the intro in Halloween 4 on the DVD menu screens for those Anchor Bays. I think even on the Blu-rays, the light would shine and you'd see the silhouette of Michael show up for a second with the knife from Part 4, and it terrified me for a second. And then I realized, wow, I loved Halloween 4 a lot. So if I had to pick one Halloween movie for this list, even though there may be more, there may not be, I won't spoil it yet, but for number 4 for me, I do have to go with Halloween 4. I love the vibe, feel, essence, and the time Halloween 4 was made. I love George P. Wilbur as Michael Myers. He is my number 1 favorite character to portray Michael is George P. Wilbur. I loved his size. I loved his aura. I loved his intensity, yet still be able to move gracefully like this, this evil angel, so to speak. And what a fantastic movie Halloween 4 is. Got the right temperament, feels like Halloween so much, which I'm already starting to feel it, because when it hits summer for me, I'm already in Halloween mode. But Halloween 4, guys, is one of my all-time favorites. It has to be a Desert Island sequel for me, so I'm taking Halloween 4 with me. Alright, guys, so coming in at number 3 for me is actually going to be Friday the 13th, Part 4. Now, Friday the 13th Part 4, guys, is, in my opinion, my humble opinion, because that's all I can ever give, I think the final chapter is the greatest slasher film ever made. I do. I think it is got the greatest villain as Jason, portrayed by Ted White in this film. I think it's got some of the most unique and fun characters in a horror movie. I love the characters in Friday the 13th, the final chapter. I love the finale. Here's a finale that just builds up and lives up to all this eruption that is the final chapter. The gore, the timing, the sound, the look of the final chapter. It's made right at the height, almost slightly past it, because 80 to about 83 is what people call like the monstrous days of the slashers. But for 84, the juggernaut that is the final chapter, to come out and just be the best, in my opinion. I love the final chapter. There's no way I'm going anywhere without the final chapter. Alright, guys, so coming in at number 2 for me, so far it seems like everybody's made this list, and of course my favorite has to make this list. I'm taking the Dream Warriors with me for Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. I love The Dream Warriors. In my opinion, it's one of the greatest horror films ever as well. When I did my top 5 of the 80s for each year, at the end, I did the top 5 horror movies of the 1980s, where I basically ranked all my number ones. Or I did top 10, and I ranked all my number ones. So at the year, my number 1 was Dream Warriors. And that's all my, of course, that's my opinion. I just love the movie. So Dream Warriors is coming with me so I can see Kincaid bend the chairs and start cussing out the old ladies. So I can see Freddy puppeteer a guy down a hall and cut the strings and make him fall off the building. So I can see him pop his head out the TV. So I can hear Dawkins. Dream Warriors is coming with me. There is no doubt about it. I have to take the Dream Warriors without question. Alright guys, so my number 1 Big 4 slasher sequel that is coming with me. This movie would be the one I'm taking, and if there's some kind of volcanic eruption on the island and I can only grab one movie, this would probably also be the one I would take with me. A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddys Revenge. There is an affinity I have with this film, and there's a history I have with this film, and that's going to be a part of it as well. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 was the very first horror movie I watched when I became a horror fanatic. Not the very first horror movie I ever watched, but the day I became a horror fanatic was that one fall evening back in 2010 or 9, when my mom brought it home from Blockbuster because I wanted to see the first Nightmare on Elm Street, but somebody had it rented, so I saw Part 2. That movie will stay with me till my dying day. I will never forget sitting in a bedroom alone on a school night, watching Freddy burst out of Jesse and literally having my jaw drop to the floor. I love A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. I love its rich history. I love the, controversy, so to speak. I love the story of Part 2. It's interesting how they threw everything out of the window for Part 2, and then they somewhat got it back on track for 3, although you could argue that 3 is still stretching things compared to 1, but 2 just threw everything away. That's interesting to me. But I love A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. It's one of my favorite horror movies. So those are my top 5 favorite Big 4 slasher sequels. As I said, you can tell a lot about a person by their top 5. And the reason I did top 5, guys, is because if you do 10, you're going to be able to fit everybody in there. Odds are you'll be able to get everybody in there. Now, I actually managed to do that, but it was not by design. It was just happenstance. So I ask you, what are your top 5 favorite Big 4 slasher sequels? What are the only 5 you take on a desert island with you if you had to? I'd love to know. I challenge each and every one of you to either make a video about this or drop your comments below and let me know your top 5 Big 4 favorite slasher sequels. For now, this is Christian Hanna Horror saying I love you guys. Let me know your answers, and we'll see you next time.